Dialectical behavior therapy was created in the 1980s by Marsha Linehan in Seattle, Washington.
Today, DBT is taught all over the world.
We're two therapists who believe everyone can benefit from DBT skills.
I'm Kate.
I'm Michelle.
And this is DBT and Me. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to Q&A 36.
36.
We're one away from my birthday.
That's what I was just
episode.
thinking.
So close. I don't know anything else to say about 36 other than it's the age I still occasionally think I am because the last year has been so fucking bizarre that I forget that I had another birthday.
That's a good thing to say about it. It works.
Right? I'm like, people are like, how old are you? And I don't remember, someone said that recently. I'm like, 36. I'm like, wait. No.
Yeah.
I was all confident in my answer and everything.
It happens.
And everyone can say hello to Jin because he's joined us.
Yay, Jen.
Okay. Your turn to start.
I do get to start. Okay. So this says, hi, Michelle and Kate. I love both of your voices. They are both wonderful for a podcast. Aw, that's very sweet. I'm writing to ask if you could do a show on having a mother-in-law with BPD. I'm a people pleaser and on my second marriage. We no longer see her because she wanted control of our first son, and there were bad emails between her, my husband, and myself, and she triangled in at different times her other son or her husband. It has been years, but each year on my husband's birthday, she calls, wanting to see my 3 kids and husband, and not me. She wrote emails to my husband saying I am a liar like her husband and other hurtful, mean statements. She wants my husband to divorce or see her without me. My husband has stood firm for years that she needs to apologize, but lately he has said maybe we should see her. I know she will not follow my boundaries and will also talk bad about me not only to my husband, but now to my sons. I feel afraid of her because in person, I know that she wins all arguments and will want to control my kids and husband. Please help me with what words to use when she attacks and all DBT skills. I'm not at peace and I've prayed nightly for years for God to help me forgive her, but it seems like there is some parts still unforgiven.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
That's a hard situation. I do not have the mother-in-law with BPD, but I do have the mother with BPD.
Yes, you do.
And I can appreciate a lot of what this person is saying. So first of all, just, I hear you and I'm sorry. That's hard. Michelle is going to talk about a lot of other great skills, but the couple of things that I thought about was first and foremost, maybe using Dear Man for talking to your husband. I understand how much having, as much as I understand where you're coming from, listener, again, having had the BPD mother myself, I also understand where your husband is coming from. And I get how they can wear you down over time. It's hard to stand up to that for years and years and years. So maybe he could use a reminder about what you're asking him and why. And Dear Man might prove as a good scaffolding for that. So that was one thing I thought about. Just for, I don't know, we have a whole episode or two, at least one episode, on boundaries. Mm-hmm. And you might really benefit from listening to that just because we talk about all the different kinds of boundaries that we have. And also having a better understanding of which boundaries of yours she tends to violate may help you understand where you're coming from, may help you communicate where you're coming from to your husband. And also may help you with sort of a plan of action for if you do end up in the same place as her. So you can kind of think about which boundaries are the most important to you, which ones can you maybe give on without it costing you much, and which ones are your kind of non-negotiables. So I think that might be helpful. Also, just pure skill-wise, again, I feel like I have said this recently because Michelle and I keep recording several episodes in a day. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, didn't I just say this? But for you guys, it will not have been that I just said this. I think this is a situation where Cope Ahead is really well suited. That was not, no. English sentences, I too can make them. This is very well suited to Cope Ahead. This situation, I think, is. You may not know exactly what she's going to say or do, but you can run some scenarios in your imagination that will have the same flavor, shall we say, of things she's likely to say and do. And you might be able to just really, again, imagine yourself behaving skillfully, behaving the way you'd like to around her, and in a way that maintains your self-respect and self-worth in the face of someone who's saying real shitty stuff about you, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
And then not technically a DBT skill, but I do really enjoy using bottom-up methods for confidence. This looks things like standing around in the superhero pose for a few minutes before you have to deal with this situation, or maybe with her specifically, or maybe doing it intermittently in the bathroom throughout the entire visit, because it doesn't require our brains to be on board, or more to the point, it makes our brains be on board, whether we think it can, will, or won't, because it utilizes, our body communicating with our brains rather than our brains communicating with our bodies as a way to really help fill us with with confidence, help us bolster. I want another word for confidence, but can't think of one. So we just feel stronger going into situations when we're in that place of confidence and kind of self-assurance. So those were my thoughts.
Yeah. When I read this, I kind of read into it that there's a fair amount. I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but it seemed as if, this listener is pretty angry at her mother-in-law's behavior.
If she isn't, she certainly could be.
Yep. Because what I wrote down is anger is justifiable here.
Yep.
There's a long history here of some pretty hurtful things happening. Despite that, though, especially kind of towards the end, we heard a lot of I know statements. I know she will not follow my boundaries. I know that she wins all arguments and will want to control my kids. Now, I'm not saying this listener is wrong. Those things may very well happen based off of past experience. And also, when we're making assumptions like that and kind of future casting like that, of kind of being in this mindset of because this is how it's been before, this is how it's going to be next time, or this is how it's going to always be, that doesn't really set us up for success. That doesn't really set us up for doing anything different, because we're already imagining things playing out the exact same way that they always have. So just something to notice and consider. Again, it doesn't feel good if we're going into, say, a job interview being I know I'm not going to get this job. Well, that's not going to help, right? So going into interactions with your mother-in-law being I know this is what she's going to do, it's just not going to help. Even if you're right, it's probably not going to help. I think it's, with you talking about using Dear Man, Kate, with the husband and kind of revisiting this, I kind of was thinking along the same lines, because we have two different relationships going on here. We have this listener's relationship with her mother-in-law, and we have this listener's relationship with her husband.
Well, we kind of had the third one of the husband's relationship with his mother.
That's true too. Yep. And I think before anything tries to really get tackled with the mother-in-law, some things need to get back on the same page with the husband, because it can lead to a lot of marital conflict if two people are having different views on family and aren't on the same page. And it sounds like the two of you were on the same page for a long time, and maybe now you're not. I'm not saying who's right or wrong here. I don't think you are in any way wrong for not wanting to be around your mother-in-law. I don't think he's necessarily wrong for maybe wanting to see if there's a possibility for him to reconcile with her or have a relationship with her. Like you said, Kate, you recognize that people with a BPD diagnosis can really wear other people down over time. So we want to have empathy for the husband here too. But I do worry about how this could affect your marriage if the two of you are on different pages with this matter. So going to couples therapy might not be a bad idea. to try to work through some of this and to understand really like what's changed for your husband, because it sounds like he had these once really firm boundaries with her and now his perspective has shifted. So we'd want to get curious about that. Again, not that it's bad or wrong that he's having a shift happen, but just curious about what's behind it. But I mean, going back to kind of like what you're asking for here, you said, please help me with what words to use when she attacks and like specific skills that could be helpful. One thing I think could be helpful is the broken record technique. So having some kind of phrase ready to go if she starts to cross boundaries with you. I mean, this could be any number of things. I did not think of specific examples before we started recording for what this could look like here in this situation.
I'm not going to engage with that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or ever.
Yep.
That's what I think about.
Yeah. You could say, that makes me feel uncomfortable. Can we talk about something else? Or you could say things like, please don't say that to my children. And the thing about the broken record technique, you do it on repeat. The same sentence. Try to keep it short, try to keep it brief, but you just keep going back to it as many times as you need to. And then typically, eventually, the person gets the message that you're not budging. You're not changing your mind. So I would consider what a phrase might look like to use with her in the moment if she is violating boundaries for you. The stop skill may really come in handy here if you're starting to get overwhelmed. It's okay to leave the situation either temporarily or permanently. You know, if your boundaries are really being violated or she is really starting to, you know, I don't know if she's truly verbally abusive, but like if she starts calling you names or saying really hurtful, disrespectful things to you, raising her voice at you. I mean, there could be any number of reasons to like really set a hard boundary, and using the stop skill may be one way that looks. The other thing though that I thought of, which may be surprising here, is honestly though, when I'm thinking about what DBT skills you want to use with her, I would really intentionally try to practice give when things are going well. I absolutely believe this listener when they talk about how their mother-in-law has, you know, triangled people in and said hurtful, mean statements. Yes, those things have happened, I'm sure. And I would also guess that there may be some times that are like the calm before the storm. I would hope. I hope. Maybe it's wishful thinking on my part, but that there are times where you have been around her in the past and the two of you are not actively engaged in conflict. I hope it's not that every single time you are around each other, it's always a fight from start to finish. I hope that there are good moments. And when there are good moments, we want to build on those like no tomorrow because the bad moments may inevitably come. The time where she does, you know, out of nowhere say something that was pretty rude. But when she's not saying rude things, when you guys are maybe just enjoying each other, things are relatively neutral, practice give and try to build up some kind of positivity in the relationship with her. Because then my hope is, you know, that whole saying of like, what, I'm gonna butcher it, I think, but like you attract like more bees with sugar than with vinegar, or is it flies, or I don't know. I don't know which insect it is or which things it is, but basically that whole idea of like when we give out kindness, sometimes we get it in return. Not always. But it can feel better for us to come from a loving place than to constantly be in a guarded place with someone just wondering like, when are they going to say something terrible about me? that's just going to stress you out. So I don't know. Something else to consider too is just trying to practice some give when things are going well with her and see what happens there.
I like it.
Thanks.
A different perspective in that last bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one reads, Hello, I have really enjoyed the podcast, in particular the episodes on grief and radical acceptance. I'm struggling with accepting and moving forward after my therapist of almost 2 years ended my therapy by ghosting me. I have filed a complaint, and that was about 2 months ago, but I don't think much will come of it. I have been dealing with intense grief and anger due to the unfairness of it. It is particularly difficult because this therapist was a person I felt really connected to and felt really close with. I am still in disbelief of what happened and really upset. It has significantly affected my ability to function, and I often wake up in the middle of the night very angry and sad. I would like some help on how I can accept this situation and move forward. Thank you.
Oh, same thing that I said to the last listener. Your anger is completely justifiable here.
Yep, and you're hurt.
Yeah, and I don't know. I am glad that you filed a complaint, honestly. I think that therapists sometimes we're human, we make mistakes. That happens. So I'm not necessarily happy when I hear that complaints got filed on certain therapists when I knew those therapists were maybe trying their best and just had like a misstep. I'm glad you filed a complaint with this therapist. Because there's no excuse for ghosting someone. None.
Weirdly, I find myself hoping for something like, they died suddenly.
But I was thinking that too, but I was like, even then, and you and I have this in our practices, right? Guess what? If I die, Kate has a document of what to do to take care of my clients. Kate's I don't even know the proper term, but
designated something or other.
Yeah, pretty much. And I am that for her as well. So like therapists still have actually this ethical responsibility to make sure that there is a plan in place so that clients are notified if something tragic and sudden happens to them, like they die.
The only thing I could think about that got it even close to okay adjacent.
No, it's funny you mentioned though, because that is exactly what passed through my mind of like, well, I want to give this therapist the benefit of the doubt, but I was like, I can't even do that because this is something that we're supposed to prepare for professionally.
Yep.
And
I'm totally on the same page. I just thought it's funny. I'm like, maybe they die?
Yeah. It's bad when that's like the only possible,
the hopeful answer
we get,
right? Of. Like, no, it's bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted your share.
No, it's okay. Because my brain went there too, which is funny. Oh man, though. I mean, listener, this was not that long ago. This was just 2 months ago. So you're still reeling from this 100%. And I don't know, like when you say I would like some help on how I can accept this situation and move forward, I kind of get the vibe here that, even though your anger is completely justifiable and makes all the sense in the world, like, I don't want to say that the key is to get past the anger. And at the same time, like, the anger doesn't have a place to go. That sounds really bad, but like, it doesn't have a place to go. It went where it could, which was to file a complaint. Yeah. That was about all you could do. You've done that. And so now the anger is just kind of hanging around. Again, understandably. But there isn't much else to do with it. And so I think that that's kind of really keeping you stuck from accepting the situation and moving forward, even if I would be pissed too. So I think some of this is practicing some radical acceptance related to just that you have done all you can do. There isn't anything else that you can do here. And that, I don't want you to be pushing away your emotions. I think it's important to feel your emotions. And also recognizing again that there's nothing else you can do. And so when that's coming up, like you say, waking up in the middle of the night feeling very angry and sad, something that you can try. I didn't write this down in my notes, but I'm just thinking of it now. What would you want to say to your therapist right now if you could? What would you want to say? And you can speak that out loud, however it comes out, however unfiltered or bitter or pissed off it is, you can let that out of you. But we got to find a way to feel the emotions, yet also not have them just live inside of you forever. If that makes sense. And they're probably going to go away in their own
creative pursuits
time.
for that too sometimes.
Sorry, what'd you say, Kate?
So I like creative pursuits for that too sometimes. Like if you're someone who does any kind of creative outlet, painting, drawing, photography, poetry, singing, sculpture, I don't know, right?
Channel it that way.
Sometimes that's a place you can put emotions that don't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that's great. Those are great ideas. The biggest thing that I tend to recommend too, I've said it before with other situations where people have written into us telling us, unfortunately, the terrible things that have happened to them in therapy, is really, though, it's okay to give yourself some time before you choose to give therapy another go. And that if you do give therapy another go, talk to your new therapist about what happened here. So I kind of feel like I'm a broken record saying that because I tend to say it to everyone, but I'll say it to you too. Talk about what happened. Talk about how it's affecting you. Because the reality is that I could very much imagine that some of your grief about losing this therapist is going to come up if and when you begin therapy all over again.
Yeah, of course.
So this may be something that you very much wind up processing with a new therapist. And how challenging is that, right? Because it's like walking into a traumatic situation all over again, hoping that you're going to have a different outcome this time. So just, I don't know, really give yourself time and also really give yourself some grace that you have done all you can. There's nothing else to do. And that's so difficult to accept that. But that's what I got.
I like it. Like everything you said. I don't have a huge amount to add on to it, really. One, and I don't know, I don't notice this person being invalidating in what they wrote, but I do just want to make sure they are actively self-validating. Because as you said, Michelle, and I don't think we can say too many times, like the hurt, the anger, the sadness, like all of that is perfectly justified. I think if, we want to use DBT terms, I'm pretty sure your feelings fit the facts.
Yeah.
Right? And so, I hope that you are telling yourself that you're giving yourself the gift of validating what you're feeling and where you're coming from, even as you're trying to move through it. That you're also validating that it's there, right? Sometimes when we want to move on or move past or move through a situation, we can think that the best way to come through it is to be like, oh, stop feeling so sad. Don't feel this way. It's been so long. It's time to, right? Sort of, maybe not super obvious invalidation, though maybe also actual super obvious invalidation. But the kind of self-invalidating perspectives or ways of thinking about it. So I just want to make sure that you're holding on to being validating of yourself, because everything you're feeling makes perfect fucking sense with what happened. Because I don't think I can see something. Oh, sorry, cat just shook his head a bit. That made a funny sound. I don't know if I can see the word sad in a Q&A without wanting to bring up self-soothe, but genuinely, you're so hurt, you deserve care. And, maybe that looks like something a little bit different than literally self-soothing with the 5 senses. Maybe that's just, don't you do it, cat. Sorry, give me a moment. Don't knock anything over. I believe in your abilities.
He's on the move.
Nothing like having an active mascot. I know, right? Anyway, sorry. Cats taking their time, doing their things. But self-soothing and or at least some form of self-care. right? Like, in a big way, what this therapist did was behave in an incredibly uncaring manner. You deserve some care. You probably need some care. So, if you can get it from other relationships, I guess I hadn't really thought about that until I was saying that out loud. Like, if you have people in your life that you can trust, that you can lean on, that can show you some extra care right now, maybe take you out or bring you some meals or help you with household chores, since you mentioned that it's significantly affected your ability to function. Maybe someone who can come over and help you clean up your place. Right? If there's people that you can lean on a bit right now, that would be excellent. Both because you probably need and deserve it, and also because when someone's really uncaring to us, it can help to be reminded that other people do care. So that's something I would think as a possibility. And then just because while we're in an incredibly distressed state, which you are, sensibly, I tend to like accepts, right? Give yourself breaks. Take breaks from the grief. Take breaks from the anger. Do something distracting, right? We all need breathers, especially from those really hard emotions. So, yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Those are my thoughts.
Awesome. Okay. This one says, hi. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about friendship. As a socially anxious person, I struggle a lot with feeling good about my interactions with other people. I tend to feel inadequate or unwanted, and I really don't know for sure what kind of expectations are acceptable in healthy friendships. I almost said relationship, but same thing. I really crave connection and a sense of belonging, but I just can't seem to find a group. Are there any DBT skills that may help with this? Do any of you have any advice or resources about the topic?
Yes. So,
we do indeed.
We do indeed. And Michelle is going to cover a lot of those sort of resources kind of bits. And I think we both had a little bit we wanted to say to try and, I guess the person doesn't actually ask what kind of expectations are acceptable, but I think we both wanted to say a little bit about
that stood out to both of us, I think.
Might be acceptable. So Michelle has a lot of great ones. I only have a couple to add to her list. And a lot of these are because of things that I've noticed missing in past friendships for me. And so when I finally found them in like healthy friendships, I was like, oh, this is awesome. I didn't know this could be this way. So first, and maybe not foremost, but important, boundary acceptance and respect. Like someone who can hear a no, can hear and roll with a, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to do that. This is a need that I have, right? Someone who doesn't, not saying that, people have feelings. It's okay to have feelings, but there's a difference between having feelings and like blowing up at you or pushing back against the boundary or, right? Like there's a lot of different ways that can look, but yeah, someone who hears and accepts and respects you altogether, but especially your boundaries. I know that I've done this. I'll call you out a little bit, Michelle. I know I've done this a couple of times with you. I know you and others have done this for me. Like I have friends that thank me for saying no because they know that it's hard for me to do that. I think I've told you good job when you've told me no about things a couple of times.
You have, yep.
Because I know some of those in particular are hard for you. Right? So that kind of mutual, support and respect for boundaries, I think is a huge thing. And sort of along those lines, but a little bit of a different flavor, is someone who lifts you up instead of pulling you down. And this can look like a lot of different things. So this could look like someone who compliments you on a regular basis rather than pointing out your flaws. This could be someone who tries to help you find the positive that's going on maybe when you're having a really hard time. Helps to try and show you the things that are going well and that you can be grateful for. But not in a weird, toxic, you should be feeling better kind of way. Right? This can be someone who maybe he is there to just be like, you're right, shit fucking sucks, right? Like in a way where you feel super validated and supported, right? I think that unfortunately we can get into relationships with people who do criticize us more than they compliment us, with people who point out the negative in every situation, with people who, like, first of all, I mean, as someone, not first of all, but I will say, as someone who struggles with mental health, I occasionally worry about being someone who pulls people down simply by being depressed. But there's a difference between someone being depressed and someone doing nothing but wallowing in their depression. Right? And so there's just, I don't know, someone who, on average, lifts you up. This doesn't mean that every single interaction you ever have with them for all of time is going to be uplifting. But look for the sort of the average as it goes. So moving on from the acceptable expectations. Why is that a mouthful right now? I wanted to talk just a little bit about skills. Give is the absolute first one, right? Give is made for this, right? Give is all about building relationships, right? So that's a really, it's maybe the most basic and easily accessible tool to take into places where you're hoping to build, make, build, or nurture friendships, right? So give is the first thing I think of. Also check the facts, right? I hear in this listener, where they say
It's
I tend to feel
late,
inadequate,
or
it is getting late. Lordy mercy. Or it says that they tend to feel inadequate or unwanted. I get that. And do you have reasons, or is it your own self-doubt cropping up? And so check the facts might be able to help you be like, maybe no one is saying or doing things that are trying to tell me that I'm inadequate or unwanted. Maybe this is just a manifestation of my fears coming up to bite me in the butt. And I say this in the gentlest of possible ways, right? Because I don't know that I've met a single human being who has never been like, oh, that person hates me, or some version thereof. Maybe there's not so much in the way of actual evidence for that to be the case, right? We all project, we all see our fears in other people, right? So this is not meant to be calling this listener out on that. It's just sometimes it can be surprisingly relieving to find out that we're not fitting the facts. As opposed to invalidating, it can be like, oh, maybe things are okay.
Right. I thought this was so much worse.
Yeah, exactly. And along the same lines as mindfulness, right? Mindfulness is about being present to what is really there, right? Objective, observable kind of things. So if you're practicing mindfulness, even as kind of a touchstone throughout an interaction, it might help bring you back to just what is. Not what you're worried is, but what is. So I kind of thought of those as going together.
Nice. Let's see. Where do I want to start? Because, I addressed kind of two things here in my answer. One, I have resources for you. Two, I didn't really touch on any DBT skills. I mean, Kate kind of nailed that. But I also want to talk about what kind of expectations are acceptable. Like, what kind of bar to set for yourself with friendships. Let's see. I'll start with the resources. So a couple podcast episodes that you can listen to. One is that we have an episode all about making friends. DBT does have materials on this, and we did an episode about it. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, we recommend listening to that episode. The other thing is we recorded an episode for The Couch and the Chair, our other podcast. The episode is about friendship loss. However, I think, Kate, I don't know if you felt like a kinship with this listener, but I was like, this sounds like what Kate talks about in that podcast episode with your personal experiences, because you for many years really were craving connection and a sense of belonging with people. And you talk in that episode a little bit about like what it was like to find that and lose that and then find that again.
And still working on refinding it.
So, yeah, you can search for The Couch and the Chair wherever you're currently listening to us for DBT and me. But listening to that friendship loss episode might also be a helpful resource for you. Another resource that I just love, I can't say enough good things about it. I think when this was posted in the Facebook group, another listener actually commented with this website. I love this website. I know we've mentioned it. At least I'm pretty sure we mentioned it in the Making Friends episode. But the website is succeedsocially.com. Pretty much any question that you have about friendship, like how do I do blank, right? How do I meet new people? How do I start a conversation? How do I, so many things. Succeed Socially is a great resource. So I highly recommend checking out that website. So that's what I had for resources. So what kinds of expectations are acceptable in healthy friendships? One of the things that I think about is it's okay to expect reciprocal effort. Now, reciprocity does not necessarily have to look like true 50-50. I hold the belief that in many of our relationships in life, things are rarely 50-50. And I think sometimes
they move back and forth, and it's just about what's the average.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah,
it
pretty
flows
much
with time.
Yeah, if we like really cling to 50-50, sometimes that can result in I'm starting to get tired. Result in a lot of dissatisfaction, right? Like if you're wanting dishes with your roommate to be 50-50, and if it's like, I did it yesterday, so I'm not going to do it today. They need to do it today, right? We want to be flexible here. What we don't want is a 90-10 type of friendship. Yeah. And if you listen to the episode on friendship loss that I was referencing with our podcast, The Couch and the Chair, I talk about a 90-10 type of friendship that I eventually lost. Because that's not going to be sustainable or healthy in the long run. So try to find a friendship where, you feel like the other person is also giving to you about the same amount that you're giving to them. So, 60-40 kind of friendship, maybe 30-70. And like Kate was saying, a friendship that can fluctuate. So sometimes you might be the 60 and sometimes the other person might be the 60. But you really feel that both of you are invested and that both of you care. That's important. I also think it's really important to have the ability to trust when it comes to expectations. Trusting that if you reach out to someone, they're going to get back to you. Trusting that when you make plans, they're going to show up. Trusting that they're going to be honest with you and not lie.
Now I'm hearing your story from that episode.
That's actually kind of true. Because I was, again, in a friendship where some of those things were lacking. But that's really important, that you feel like you can trust and rely on this person who you're becoming friends with. And then the third thing that I'll say is that it's important that you can easily name what you get out of the friendship. I don't care what your answer is. Like, your answer might be like, when I'm with this person, like, we just laugh and we have so much fun. Great. It may be, this person really listens to me and I feel really supported by them when I'm having a hard day and I'm telling them about it. Great. Any answer works here. But it's not so great when someone says, what are you getting out of the friendship? And you're going, And I've had this before where I'm like, well, they're a really nice person. I like who they are. Okay. And is this friendship bringing something of benefit to your life? Is it adding to your life? If it's not adding to your life, it may be best to not have it there, because chances are if it's not adding, it's probably subtracting and taking. So, some things to think about there in terms of expectations. So, yeah, and Kate, you are totally right. I did not even connect those dots that like, oh, I'm kind of talking about the things that I've learned from some not so great friendship experiences. Yep. And that's what I recommend as far as expectations go.
All right. On to the last one.
Yes, it is.
All right. This one says, "Hi, I've just discovered your podcast. They are great. Thank you. I have BPD. My worst symptom at the moment is insecurity, paranoia, jealousy. Are there any particular skills that help with this? I'm really scared I'm pushing my partner away."
Now, normally I could be pretty long-winded when I'm giving answers. I don't think I'm going to be too long-winded here. Because the answer came to me like that.
Bam!
Right. Are there any particular skills? And I'm like, yes, here it is. And the skill is check the facts. Check the facts. This is, I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm not in Marshall Linehan's head. I don't know what exactly was going on when she created Check the Facts. I believe it was exactly for feelings of insecurity, paranoia, and jealousy. Because, I mean, we all make up stories in our heads about things, right? We assume what another person's intentions are when we don't know. We just tell ourselves stories. We do. It's part of being human. And for people with a BPD diagnosis, that is very likely to happen. And the stories tend to be ones that can have this flavor, right? It can be that story of I called them and they didn't answer. They're mad at me. They're cheating on me. And we don't know that, right? We don't know why they didn't answer, but it's very easy for brains to go there. And I hate to say it, but especially for people diagnosed with BPD. This is a very common experience, listener. Very, very common. And I think Check the Facts is really that skill that's there to slow you down and to get you to think, is it really as bad as you think it might be? Do you really have a reason to be paranoid here? Do you really have a reason to feel insecure or jealous? So do a Check the Facts worksheet. Highly recommend when those feelings are coming up for you. So that's the DBT skill. The only other thing I'll add in is that if you're not working with a therapist, this is great stuff to work on with a therapist, because also to give yourself some grace here, having emotions like this come up may be because of past trauma. It may be because you have a long history in your life of not being able to count on people, of having it be that if somebody, say, didn't answer your call, it was because they were, purposefully ignoring you or that kind of a thing. If there is past interpersonal trauma for you, when I say interpersonal trauma, I mean past trauma in regards to relationships with other people in your life, romantic relationships, family relationships. If there is trauma that you've experienced because of other people's treatment of you, we definitely want to get that stuff talked about with a therapist, because like you said, you're really scared about pushing your partner away. So we don't want bad experiences from your past to influence what might be a really good experience in the present. Hopefully this relationship you're in is a healthy one that you want to keep around. And being able to work through some of the stuff from your past is going to really help. So start working with a therapist if you're not already, to try to tackle some of these emotions. Yeah. Okay.
So
that's all
Michelle took the right answer.
Is that where your brain went to? Like immediately?
I mean, of course, check the facts.
Yes. Yeah.
Because, of course, check the facts. Yes.
Yeah. This is what it is for. Yeah.
So, all of these are second best. But, because, well, no. I'll go to that last because I always go to it first. Accepts or improve could be really helpful, especially, say, after you've checked the facts. If you're like, check the facts. Okay. All right. Nope. Doesn't fit the facts.
Now what?
But my brain is still there,
Yeah.
right? I'm still having a really hard time shaking this thought pattern. Distract. Get your brain off its course. And I think accepts and or improve could both be helpful for that. Pardon me, seeing is getting late. No, yawning, sorry. If it's not so much a matter of, okay, I'm still all wound up and can't get off of this thought pattern, so I need to distract myself. If instead, after doing the worksheet and kind of finding out that maybe it doesn't fit the facts, if you just feel real drained and kind of, I don't know, just, wrung out. I know, but I do think of self-soothe. But really, right? Like, I don't know. I've been there. I've certainly, especially having done polyamory so much of my life, like, I've definitely dealt with insecurity and jealousy. Especially because, having been raised by a BPD mom, I certainly didn't become an adult without having inherited some of those traits, even if not enough for a full diagnosis. So I super feel that, and I don't know, they've often left me feeling really wrung out and sad. And so some form of self-care, maybe particularly self-soothing, I think could be a really good fit. And then, I don't know, while it's not, I guess, technically a part of Check the Facts, I do think that having a mindful and or kind of wise mind approach to trying to do the worksheet, if at all possible, can be really helpful. And so also, mindfulness in general just helps strengthen our prefrontal cortex and chill out our limbic system, which means we feel less wildly and think more clearly, which I think are both things that can be real helpful for things like insecurity, paranoia, and jealousy. So those are the places I would go.
Yeah, I think those are great follow-up skills to Check the Facts.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, we're done with Q&A 36. Coming up next,
Ta-da!
Kate's birthday Q&A. Woohoo!
Oh God, we've gotten silly.
I know, we have. We gotta
Whatever.
find what can make Q&As unique and distinct
You
from
guys
each
love
other.
us anyway.
Yes. But yeah, email us, dbtmepodcast@gmail.com, or post in the Facebook group if you're needing support or have questions for us. We definitely want to be here to support you and give some kind of direction with whatever you're struggling with. Yeah.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
You're welcome. Goodbye. Good night. Whatever.
Bye.
To learn more about us and the DBT skills we're teaching each week, join our Facebook group. Simply log in to your Facebook profile and search for DBT